Brilliant. Welcome everybody to this decision session. My name is Councillor Katie Lomas, Executive Member for Finance Performance Major Projects, Human Rights, Equalities and Inclusion. I'm going to start by saying I have no declarations of interest to make and move on then to the minutes. And unless anyone has any comments about the minutes, then I will happily sign those. I understand we have no public participation today, so we'll move straight on to the main item, the council tax debt pilot, and hand over to you, David.
Thank you, Councillor. This report provides feedback from the Household Support Fund debt pilot that we undertook back in 22-23. The premise of this work was that the council recognised that areas of council tax indicate residents facing other issues in their life, for example, other debts, complex health issues and things like that. And because people always approach, as we approach outbound council tax debt, you see an opportunity to explore that and try and get a better understanding of the issues affecting people who are in debt with council tax and the broader wraparound support that maybe we could try and provide. So this paper basically sets out the learnings of this work, and this is a pilot that Susan Wood, who's here today, undertook. So I'm going to let Susan go through the paper, just a little bit more detail about what she did. Just before I do that, I'll just go through the recommendations of the paper though. So what we tried to do, there's a fuller report attached to Annex 1, which is a more detailed paper. But the recommendations that we put within the covering report are ones that we think we can implement more immediately to have a more immediate impact. And they're set out at paragraph 9. And those recommendations are to set up a voluntary non-cost multi-agency debt group, including our community sector partners, so we can look in more detail during 2024 all the issues raised by residents within the pilot. To establish non-cost debt surgeries at West offices following council tax reminders during 2024. The idea behind that is the fact that it's much easier to do it immediately after reminders have gone out and do it together in one location, so we can try and see as many customers as possible. To go back to something we've tried before, and that's about texting residents, getting CT reminders about continuing to pay something. It's important that people continue to pay, and all our third sector partners agree early intervention and making people aware of debt's really important, and actually that can be very effective in people making some payment and keeping up to date with their council tax. And the final one in there is really about wording around CT reminders and summonses. This is an issue that's been going on for some time about the wording we use, why we use it, whether we can change it, whether changing that wording has a beneficial impact on how customers react to it. And it's also an issue that's come through from things like the Public Truth Commission about wordings and what we put, so we want to look at that across the year. So those are the recommendations contained within the report, but I want to let Susan talk a little bit about what they did over the year.
Thanks. So this was part of some ongoing work. I've been in this post 5 odd years now, and it was one of the things that I started to look at not long after I came into post. And particularly focusing on the council tax recovery process for those people who can't pay rather than those that won't pay, and trying to make sure that we can give as much support and guidance to people who can't pay as possible. The legal framework for council tax recovery is quite restrictive and prescribes actions that the council must take, and so quite often our response to people when they're ringing up about non-payment of council tax is that very systematic, this is what happens, this is the legal process, and this is what needs to happen. And so what we started to look at pre-COVID, and then COVID got in the way a little bit, was about how we could make sure that there was that message, along with the legal process about what happens around council tax recovery, was supported alongside how people get advice and support when they're struggling to pay their bills. And so this pilot project was part of a raft of things that we've been doing. So we've been talking to teams alongside that about how making people aware of that. We've been doing some training with the CSRs. We've talked to the council tax team to raise awareness with them about how we do that, and that's part of the and I know as part of this there is an agreement with Citizens Advisor compact with them about how we collect council tax support, and that includes regular meetings with Citizens Advice and the debt recovery team. But what we wanted to do was try and extend that to include other partners as well. So we had the debt pilot, which was to pilot having a specific targeted advisor who could pick up, again, coming out of that idea about when people get a reminder, having some resource that could specifically look at giving advice to people in that situation, what works best, why people would, and to get some information about why people were getting in that situation and how we could best make the use of the ongoing resources that we have, which are ever getting tighter and tighter. The resources and the capacity is very limited, but the need is increasing, and has increased even since we started looking at this with the cost of living crisis. So we had this post and we've learned lots of things from it. We tried different methods about how we responded when people got the reminders. We did some proactive trying to contact people who had got reminders to offer them help. So we rang some people around that. So we tried different methods and we pulled together that learning into the report. We got some separate external funding from York Together, which funded some external research as well, both with Health Watch and the Centre for Housing Policy at the university. So the Centre for Housing Policy had some conversations with staff and both in the customer service side of the council and the debt recovery team, but also spoke to support workers around to try and get a better picture of what's happening and those relationships between those different teams. And then alongside that, Health Watch had followed up with some of the clients that had been seen by the debt pilot project to get some clients' experiences from an objective independent point of view. And so we've got that snapshot that's included as well. So we've done, like I said, we've done lots of work. It's still ongoing, and the recommendations are there. So to highlight those, and then, as we said, they're about trying to encourage those conversations between the different teams, so we all understand what each other's doing better and why we're doing, and try and minimise the silos and the barriers between those teams. We want to make sure that we're promoting the offer advice and support, and then as well, one really important aspect of that is promote the take of council tax support as part of that, so that we're not getting people who are saying that they're struggling to pay, who could be eligible for council tax support, that would reduce the amount that they would pay because they don't know or aren't able to claim. Yeah, so we've been working with customer services, we've been working with housing management office, with income service welfare benefits team, and our CBS partners, as well as the recovery team. So hopefully we'll be able to take these actions forward again and pick up and continue the work that we've been doing.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I'm you know, impressed to see a compassionate approach to something that is really tricky, and you know, it's important to highlight that we are obliged to take certain actions if people aren't paying their council tax, but good to see a multi-agency approach, that element of compassion in there, making sure people are claiming council tax support where they're eligible for it. And I'll be interested to see what comes through about the wording on letters. I think there's probably more correspondence that the council sends that should be viewed in that same way, looking at what is the impact of how we say what we say, as well as, you know, what we're saying in itself. And I'm really pleased to see inputs from the Poverty Truth Commission as well, making a real difference in what we do and how we do it. You know, entering into the work around the Poverty Truth Commission was a big step, I think, for the council. And it's important that we get everything that we can out of that real in-depth relationship building work, because that's really important. So I'm very happy to accept all of those recommendations, and I really look forward to seeing a different approach to making sure we do what we need to do as a council in recovering unpaid council tax, with that element of compassion and support for people as well. So thank you very much for that. It's been really interesting to see this go through.
Thank you.
And there being no urgent business, I think that is us done. Thank you very much.